You ready? I'd like to call the noon, March 2nd, Petersburg Borough Assembly meeting to order. And with that, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Lynn,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanton Gregor,
Here.
Member Martin, Member Mucci,
Jeff, you're mute.
How about now?
You're good.
I'm here.
Member Newman,
Here.
Member Schwartz,
Here.
Member Valentine. Thank you.
Okay, we have a full assembly today with Member Mucci calling in on Zoom. With that, voluntary pledge of allegiance is next. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one set of minutes here. The minutes from the February 17th, 2026 meetings will be included in the March 16th packet. So there are really no minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Member Stanton Gregor, second by Member Newman. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I don't know if we need to amend it, but I'll have a little discussion item about some anti-hatchery Board of Fish proposal I might want to have us weigh in on next meeting.
We can put that under assembly member comments and go with it. Okay, thank you. Any other changes? With that, all those in favor of the agenda as it stands, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Today, there are no public hearings, there are no bid awards, and we're moved on to persons to be heard related to the day's agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to talk to today's agenda as it is? Is there anybody on Zoom?
I don't see any hands raised.
I'll move on then to persons related to be heard unrelated to the day's agenda. Again, is there anybody in the audience that would like to talk to items unrelated to today's agenda? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No, there's no one.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move on. Board, commission, committee reports today. There are nothing under consent agenda, and that moves us on to reports of other officers. First item under that is a briefing from Petersburg Medical Center, and I believe Mr. Hofstetter is here to do that. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Phil Hofstetter, Petersburg Medical Center CEO. Submitted my report, and a couple updates may not be in there, but are worth highlighting. One is we are happy to report that we have our colonoscopy and scope clinic reoccurring. Our first one occurred a few weeks ago, and our next clinic is occurring on a rotation every 2 or 3 months, and next one will be in April. So very excited to have that happening at PMC. We have optometry here this week, and later on this, also in April, we'll see about scheduling dermatology. So still working on increasing our access to care and especially our specialty care. Health fair is on March 14th. And so I've been talking about that and our staff have been talking about that on KFSK, and it's on Facebook as well. So it'd be great to have an opportunity to be there. Leading up to that, we have our discounted lab draws for the community. And so this week is our last week for that. That's March 3rd to the 5th. We already have over 400 people that have their labs drawn. So it's pretty significant. Thirdly, I have Rural Health Transformation Funds. The letters of interest, the portal is now open. So we have until March 11th to submit our letters of interest. So we're working on that with our strategy and grants. And we have about 7 projects that we're going to be submitting for. And more information as that comes to fruition. We don't have information on budget or amounts per allocation or any of that kind of stuff, but we'll be reporting back on that. Our CON, our certificate of need was the hearing was completed. I think I reported that last time. We're still waiting on the response from the state. So they have up till 60 days to respond. So we're kind of on pins and needles until then. And that's all I had.
Any questions for Mr. Hofstadter? Okay, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Moving on to the Petersburg School District, and I think Superintendent Taylor has a report.
All right, well, good morning, afternoon. I'm Robin Taylor, the superintendent for the school district. Just a few things. I wanted first and foremost to say thank you to both the borough and the state and our school district facilities guys for getting the area cleaned up and ready to go. By 7:30 this morning, we were ready for students to arrive. So that was nice. And it was that fine line of, do we do a delayed start or not? So I appreciate the responsiveness from all entities last night as we were talking back and forth, trying to make that determination. Then next week, Samson Electric does plan to be on site to start looking at the actual work that they'll be doing this summer on our campus security upgrades project. So they're starting to get going on that. And I want to thank the borough for meeting with our school board last week to talk about finances and other things like all of the work that has to happen in the district or the recommended scope of work. But just a reminder to folks out there, we've launched a new software tool called the Balancing Act. It is live online. You can just go to the district's website into the finance department to see that tool, and it gives you an opportunity to provide feedback to the district on how to best balance our budget next year. Right now, we are looking at a roughly $280,000 deficit that we'll have to balance in some manner. And so this is a way for the community at large to give us that input on whether we make reductions or if we pull it out of our reserve fund account. And the final thing I just wanted to say is good luck to our Petersburg High School teams as they are heading off to regionals this week. We sent the basketball teams out on the plane today just as a safety to get them out there a few days early, knowing the status of our flights lately. So we wanted to get them out. And then I think our cheer team and band might be taken off tomorrow. So that's all I have.
Is there any questions? Okay, thank you, Rowan. Appreciate that. Moving on, we have a report also from District Ranger Case from the Forest Service. Carrie, you've got the floor.
Thanks. Good afternoon. We are revising our forest plan, and so the notice of intent was published, which begins a 30-day comment period. So that comment period is open currently, and it ends on March 20th. So I don't know if the Assembly has questions on that. I'm not working directly on that, but I could field some questions probably not here, but and get some answers for you all if you had them or were wondering how that process works. There is a community workshop scheduled for April 23rd here in the Assembly chambers. So there'll be more information coming from that. But that's another chance to hear about the plan, ask questions, and provide input. The cabin at Woodpecker on the Woodpecker Road System is finished with design, and it'll be heading to contract this summer. So we're excited about that. And the West Point cabin is going to be closed starting in March. It has some significant structural work that needs to be done. We were able to get a contract secured finally for that. So starting in March, we're going to have to turn back reservations. We're notifying folks. We're hoping that will be done in early summer, but we're not sure yet. It kind of depends on how fast the contractor moves along. But just a heads up for the public, that cabin is going to be having some work done, which is going to extend its lifespan by quite a bit. So we're excited to have that happen, but we know it's an inconvenience to folks that it will be closed for a period of time this spring and into early summer. We do have a blading contract, so for roads, doing some road work on Metcalf Island starting in June. So that's good because we know our roads need it. So we're excited to have that in place. And I just wanted to let the public know we are aware that the Tonka road system has some significant issues. Yeah, all the water that's coming off the hillside is causing some issues, and we are aware of that. And we still haven't gotten our full budget yet. So once we do, we'll have to make some decisions on road work, see how much money we have, but just wanted to let folks know we are aware of that. So that's it.
Any questions for Ranger Case? No, thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it. Last item under reported by other officers is the BDO audit report. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to our finance director to introduce folks and go from there.
Hi, yeah, it looks like we have George Barker on Zoom and Vicky Shrestha, and they will be just going over the audit for the next 10 minutes or so. All right.
Okay,
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me first.
we can hear you. If you could turn that up, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. All right. And then I am able to share my screen over here. I think the share button is here, so I'm just gonna start with that. All right. First of all, my name is Vicky Shrestha, and I am the assurance partner in charge of your audit. And with me over here is also Joseph that might advise. He's the manager on the job. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right thing over here. Just a second. Sorry, I just need a second over here. No.
And Vicky, I did print off wrap-ups schedules or for everyone for the assembly as
Yep.
well. So they all have this, what you're showing on the screen.
Okay. So do you see the overview and status of the audit on the screen now too?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure I was sharing the right files. All right. So first of all, I'd just like to start by thanking Jody and everybody at Petersburg Borough that helps us get to the audit. It's a big undertaking. Your financial statements are pretty thick, and it takes a while for us to get through the work. And then we request a lot of samples throughout the process, and then we also do lots of inquiries with different individuals within the department. It just adds extra burden to all your staff, but everything they provide everything in a timely manner. And I just wanted to just start by thanking everybody there. And now we go to the status of the audit. As you can see here, we have completed our audit of the financial statements, and our audit was subject to government auditing standards because you get federal and state funding, and you are subject to federal and state compliance requirements. The first bullet point here, the objective of our audit was to obtain reasonable, not absolute assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Just to point that out is an audit is not designed to look at each and everything that goes to the statements. We look at material amounts. We look at compliance requirements that are material to your entity. We also focus on a risk assessment process by which we design our procedures to focus more on those risks. The third very important bullet point right here, we have issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on a financial statements, and the report was printed on February 10th, 2026. Your federal and state programs too, we did issue an unmodified opinion on your federal and state single audit. And then the last bullet point here, all records and information requested by BDO was fully available for inspection throughout the whole process. The next, some of the significant risks that we focus on, because you do have some super users in your organization, we always look at any IT changes or anything like that. We always have a risk we have to focus on for management override whenever there are journal entries or if there are things done outside of your normal operating internal control process. We focus on those transactions. And then your grant revenue, we always have to focus more on the grant revenue just because there's more scrutiny over those amounts. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, we do list out some corrected misstatements, but those are just part of the service we provide related to pension related entries that we help the borrower with. So that was the corrected item. As far as uncorrected, there is a small uncorrected misstatement related to leases. The borrower has chosen not to book the liability for leases, but the amount is really small and does not really affect the financial statement any other material way. Next slide is internal control over financial reporting. As part of our audit, we just don't go look at the numbers. We start by getting an understanding of the financial reporting process and the controls surrounding it. And when we get that understanding, if we notice any issues, we list them right here into one of the three buckets defined over here: a control deficiency, a significant deficiency, or material weakness. Any items that we deem to be significant deficiencies or material weakness that we think could affect your financial statements, those would be presented in writing to the assembly. In your case, it would also be a finding in the financial statements, and we have none of those to report. We did have one control deficiency that it's been carrying over just because of the size of the organization, the size of the borrower and the team over there. But as I said before, this is something that we focus our time on, just looking at some of the entries that's made and no further issues associated with that. Now, the next slide is internal control over compliance requirements. As part of our audit, we also look at your controls around your compliance requirements that we have to audit every year. There is a process that we have to go through to figure out which programs we need to audit for federal programs, because you get over $750,000 of federal funding. That amount is going up in 2026. For the next fiscal year, the threshold does go up to $1 million instead of $750,000. We still expect to have a federal single audit for next year too. So as part of that process, if we notice any issues similar to how I described earlier, we would report anything that we consider to be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and those would be also presented as findings in the financial statements. And then if we noticed any instances of non-compliance with laws and regulations, those would also be reported as part of the internal control over compliance reporting, and we have none of those to report for the year. Other significant accounting policies and practices, if there were any major change in your accounting policies and practices, then we would list it out here. There's no major change over here this year. For 2026, the one major GASB pronouncement that could have had an effect on the statements is related to your GASB 101 for sick leave. So if there was significant sick leave liability, then those would be presented in the financials. This year, for the school district, for example, which is presented as a component, they did have a pretty large chunk that they had to book in as an adjustment because of the change in accounting principles, but the pronouncement didn't have an effect on the borough's financials. Going forward to next year, there are some new accounting pronouncement that's coming into play. The major one being GASB 103 related to your financial statements presentation. So there may be some changes in the way some of the items in your financial statements are presented in 2006 and going forward after that. And one other accounting estimate that I would just like to talk to the assembly about every year is your pension liabilities and OPEB assets. Please note that those information is are obtained directly from the State of Alaska Division of Retirement. There is a separate audit done by other auditors related to those amounts and how those amounts are allocated, and that information is booked in your financial statements during the year based on that audit. Other required communication, if we had any significant disagreements with management or other significant issues that arise during the audit, those would be listed here, but we don't have any of that to report. So that's a brief overview of the financial audit. After that, I was just gonna do a brief summary of some of the highlights of for 2025. The first statement here is Exhibit A1. This is your statement of net position. This is basically your balance sheet for the year. This statement has all of your assets, all of your liabilities, everything that you owe, and the difference between your assets and liabilities is your net position. One thing I always like to point out is the borough reports, since it reports as a government, so they use what's called a modified accrual basis of accounting. So what that means is for your budgeting and majority of your financial reporting throughout the year, you focus on current resources. So current liabilities, current assets are reported, but long-term assets and liabilities are not presented in your trial balances. So these statements over here do include those long-term assets and liabilities, especially for your governmental activities. Your business type activities report on a full accrual, so those statements already includes your long-term assets and liabilities. So in your case, for the governmental activities, this adds your capital assets, your pension liability, your OPEB assets. Those are the main categories that gets added in this statement. Your total assets at the end of 2025 was $71.9 million, almost $72 million for the governmental activities. Majority of that was in your capital assets of $38 million and your land and construction in progress of about $6.9 million. The other big category over there in your assets is your cash and investments, which was at $24.7 million. For your business type activities, $88.8 million of assets. Out of that, $59 million and another $6 million or so is your capital assets. And then $14.8 million was your cash and investment during the year. As far as your liabilities go, majority of your liabilities for both your business type and governmental activities is related to your bonds and loans payable, and then your pension liability at the end of the year. The pension liability was $5.1 million for the governmental activities and $4.2 million for your business type activities. Your loans and your bonds total about $4 million for your governmental activities and $12 million for your business type activities. This leaves you with $60 million, almost $59.3 million in net position for your governmental activities and $69.7 million for your business type activities. Now, when you go to your governmental funds, just to point this out, the financial statements are presented to present all of your major funds. So basically, there's a calculation that has to be done every year, depending on if fund reaches basically 10% of your assets, liabilities, your revenue or expenditures, then those are presented as major funds. All the rest of your funds are presented as non-major funds over here. And there is a schedule in the supplementary information of the financial statements that has a breakout of everything that adds up to the items that's listed in non-major over here. Your total assets for your fund level statements, where these guys, like I said, do not have long-term assets and liabilities. So total assets are $23 million for the governmental funds. 7.9 of that is in your general fund. Your liabilities of $2.5 million, leaving you with your fund balance of $20.4 million at the end of 2025, and then 7.4 million of that is unassigned. And then for your just a brief overview, brief overview of your revenues for the year for your governmental activities. Your revenues was $14.6 million. Majority of that is your sales tax revenue of $4.2 million, property tax revenue of $3.8 million, and intergovernmental revenue of $3.2 million. Your total expenditures for the year was $14.2 million. And at the end of the year, your net change in fund balance was $1.7 million. And then a brief overview of your business type activity, revenue and expenses. So your business type activities are all listed in pages C1 through C4. And then total revenues for your business type activities was $14.8 million. Total expenses of 17.7, just resulting in including all your investment income and some of your other expenses. Your total losses for the year was $2.3 million. And then you did have some capital contributions and then transfers in from the governmental activities of $1,089,000 for the year. So that's a brief overview of the financial statements itself. Any questions for me or Jody?
Any questions from the assembly? Hearing none, go ahead, please.
So that's really what I have for my presentation today.
Any questions? Jody, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay,
you.
thank you. We appreciate the presentation.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm going to move on then to the last item under the report of other officers. The last item is the emergency operations plan update, and I think Mr. Hankins has a presentation there to make.
At this time, I wasn't prepared to actually present on it. Just note the fact that the Public Safety Advisory Board did receive a presentation from a potential vendor related to the importance of updating that plan and to go over a presentation that we had done 2024, I think, about what's wrong with plan, what we need to update in it, et cetera, et cetera. I can provide a presentation on it, but I was not prepared to do it. I just wanted to note that, hey, this is going to be an upcoming budget request, and that's in my fiscal year 27 budget to give advance notice and that they supported the expenditure. So that's all I was aiming to do at this time.
Right, thank you. Questions right now from the assembly? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. I'll move on here to the mayor's report on this, and it's very, very short this go round. The assembly held a work session with the school board on February 26th, and I think it was a pretty good session. Two items we talked about. One was that the superintendent has put together what I will consider a very detailed plan on their facilities. And then they went through a process with the board of showing what the real needs were. and prioritized those. And then they took a further up step on it, and they showed in that plan what can be done internally, but then what has to be done or have participation in either the borough or the state. And I had a chance then, actually this weekend, to talk to a couple of the representatives in the state. I think that plan will really help put our school district in a very competitive, the other districts in the state for whatever money is available for maintenance of schools. And moving on from that, I'm seeking letters of interest for interest from citizens to serve the community as planning commissioner until October 2026 municipal election. Letters of interest should be submitted to the clerk at the borough offices located at 12 South Dordick Drive by sending to P.O. Box 329, Petersburg, AK 99833, or by emailing to bregula@petersburgak.gov. And with that, I'll move it to the manager's report.
Thank you, sir. Liz and Glow had the opportunity to meet with the newly assigned build project manager and federal team for the Scout Bay project last week. The team is reviewing the project funding requirements and will populate a draft agreement that will outline the scope of the project, schedule, and budget that will get finalized and obligate the funds for construction. Library passport service hours have expanded to 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, and we're looking for a part-time library clerk. Upcoming programs at the library include Lego Club, Baby Raven Reads, Rainforest Riders, Yoga with Karen, presentations on heat pumps, and a Petersburg Science Series presentation on landslides. Macmillan Inc., the borough's consultant who recently completed the dam breach study on Crystal Lake Dam, has completed the analysis in a report. Based upon much more accurate topographical information and advanced computer modeling, the consultant has determined that a flood from the dam break at Crystal Lake will not be as catastrophic as was modeled in 1985. Macmillan has shown that there is virtually no risk of loss of life at the hatchery or at the homes of hatchery employees. Further, with the existing dam breach alarms in place, there's ample time for residents and employees to evacuate the area before peak flood waters arrive. Power and Light has forwarded the report and data to FERC with a letter requesting a review and reduction in the potential hazard classification from high to low. Factory acceptance testing for the Scout Bay No. 2 step-up transformer took place on February 23rd to the 26th at the vendor's factory in India. Power and Light's inspector provided daily interim reports, and a final report of the overall testing effort is expected soon. Power and Light recently had an all-tech mechanic come to town for some warranty work on the line trucks, and our staff continues to train a new operator on the diesel power plant and hydro operations. Dawson Construction achieved 65% design on the Scout Bay No. 2 generator project in February and will have a 65% cost estimate by mid-March. Power and Light has received a good level of interest in the Main Street lighting project and looks forward to the bid opening on March 6th. Power and Light has submitted the first project for DOE approval under the Tribal Grid Resiliency Grant Program and is awaiting for federal approvals. The project will focus on completing the local AMI metering deployment in Petersburg. Thanks to the Petersburg Indian Association for working with the borough on this grant. Power and Light is also developing a set of dashboard metrics to share with the community, including system health, capacity usage trends, and heating degree data to help illustrate various impacts on the average customer's bill. We expect some or all of this information to be available on our website in the near future. We will welcome feedback or suggestions from the Assembly and the public when the information is publicly available. Welcome to new permanent employee, Devin Guthrie, who has been hired as a laborer in the streets crew. And the motor pool foreman has begun training our new mechanic trainee in motor pool operations and preventative maintenance procedures. We are actively recruiting a sanitation operator. No experience is required. CDL and training are provided, and see the borough website for additional information. Progress continues at the Pump Station 4. Engineers from P&D and Morris Engineering completed a site visit with pump and control inspections on February 17th. Staff recently improved the pumps at the Cabin Creek Pump Station with help from Maddington Electric, and Laura Holder was hired for our open dispatch corrections position. Chief Kerr conducted a question and answer session with First Bank regarding fraud prevention and awareness. And the PD wanted to let folks know we've seen a rise in some minor vehicle accidents due to the snowfall. PD wants to remind drivers to exercise caution when out and about. Assisted living has recently filled multiple positions, including cook, custodian, and resident assistant. We are currently advertising for a second employee supervisor and an on-call resident assistants. Assisted living is enjoying the lively addition of 4 new residents and welcomes all friends, family members, and volunteers to brighten our days. Elderly Housing's cooler and freezer project is currently underway with Apex Refrigeration starting to methodically disassemble and store the refrigeration panels. And the Volunteer Fire Department will begin hosting its Intro to Firefighting class beginning March 7th through April 18th. These classes will run every Saturday, 8 to 5, and it's a great opportunity to learn the ins and outs of firefighting. Contact Chief Byrd or Ryan Weldy or call the station at 907-772-3355 for more information. Tim Keeneman will celebrate his 50th year in the Petersburg Volunteer Fire Department in March. This is a major milestone, and Tim is the third person to ever do so. Please join us in congratulating him. There'll be a port security meeting in the Assembly Chambers on April 15th at 9, and our new gymnasium schedule posted on Facebook website and around the community center. Keep an eye out for added gym and swim times during spring break. That's it, unless there's questions.
Any questions for the manager? No? Hearing none? I'll move on here to unfinished business. There's one item today under unfinished business. It's ordinance 2026-04. An ordinance amending the official zoning map for Service Area 1 of the Petersburg Borough to Zone A parcel of Borough Tideland Industrial L1 within the Marine Industrial Overlay Zone Subdistrict. This is the third reading. If adopted, this ordinance shall amend the Service Area 1 zoning map to designate a borough-owned tideland parcel as industrial within the Marine Industrial Overlay. The Planning Commission report recommended approval of the rezone, and it is attached to this report. Ordinance 2026-04 was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-04 as presented.
Second.
Okay. Moved by member Newman, second by member Schwartz. Discussion. Okay, hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Stan Gregor,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Newman,
Yes.
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Jeff, go ahead.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
Mayor Lynn.
thank you. Yes. With that, that motion is approved 7-0. I'll move on to new business. Under new business, we have two items. Resolution 2026-03, Accident Agreement for Public Safety Equipment. Chief Kerr requests an approval of Resolution 2026-03, authorizing an agreement with Accent Enterprise, Inc. for body-worn cameras, TASER 10 devices, in-car camera systems, digital evidence storage, training, and related software services in an amount not to exceed $378,897.58 over a 10-year term, with annual payments subject to appropriation. A memo from Chief Kerr is attached to this agenda item. And I would add that really what we're talking about for this year is about $37,880 of the total. And with that, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2026-03?
So moved.
Thanks.
Okay, been moved by Member Stan Gregor, second by Member Valentine. Discussion. Member Stan Gregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief Kerr, for getting this before us. I think it's a very good value over the 10 years. There's many pieces I like to it. I think the increased use of both camera and body cam technology is excellent. It protects our officers and civilians alike. It is great for accountability, and thank you for getting this before us.
Other questions from assembly members?
Does Chief Kerr want to speak to this?
I can if you, so again, we have this stuff in use right now, and what usually we pay yearly on this stuff, and they approached us with a 10-year contract. Usually they're 5-year contracts. And so instead of having 3 individual contracts, they actually offered to combine it into one, extend it out for 10 years. And so that's why this is going before you guys. We pay for it every year. And this is actually some of the stuff that they're including in this as part of it is actually really beneficial. The Taser 10s as part of this contract is a really good deal. Currently, our tasers, you have 2 chances when you go to use a taser on someone. And with the Taser 10, you actually have 10 individual chances. So you have to get 2 of them to connect it to make the taser work. So it provides a really good, less lethal option. And then some of the other stuff is the technology refresh as part of this. Battery lives, they only last so long. So the batteries and the rechargeable batteries in the body camera, they start to degrade over time. But as part of this contract, we'll get technology refreshes along the way, same as with the Taser, same as with the in-car cameras, so that we stay up to date, so that the batteries will stay charged for a full shift, and we don't have to worry about trying to recharge mid-shift. And part of this contract with it is if they have a new technology that comes out, since we have the technology refresh as part of this, we get that new technology. So I think this 10-year contract is in the borough's best interest to lock in pricing so we're not subject to future increases.
Thank you. And for any listeners, compliance is better than getting tased. From firsthand experience. Thank you.
Any other questions from assembly members? Before the meeting, I asked Chief Kerr a number of questions on the part of it related to AI and whether or not we had sufficient controls in place that would protect, both the officers and the public, whoever it might be. And if you want to address that for just a minute, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, so the AI assisted report writing that it has along with it, what it does, it's not like your regular AI that you can just type in something and get it to create some. It's not going to do that. What this AI assisted report writing does is it actually helps pull out information from the video and help the officers with the reports. So it's actually going to get more accurate because it'll help take out human error. And we want to make sure that stuff is 100% accurate. And so that's why if it pulls it, part of the report writing process that this stuff uses is I can change the amount of information they have to change. Right now, it's currently at 20% where they have to add in 20% of it. It also it also adds in sentences that didn't happen, and they're obvious. Like one of them I read was upon the officer's arrival, they found 2 gnomes fighting. We all know that that's not correct. But what it does is it inserts these things that are totally obvious, but they have to read it. They have to change the percentage of wording. And then if they don't catch every single one, they have to reread it until they find them all. And they are not allowed, it won't allow them to copy that report and put it as the official report until all that stuff is completed.
I think the only thing that you and I talked about is that you yourself you can put more controls on it if needed.
Yeah, we can add in more, we can make it least restrictive, but I think right now is at a pretty good level where they have to check it. Plus then once the officer submits it, once they've done all their corrections to it and added in all the additional information, then it goes to the sergeant who then reads it again, checks it. Then from there it goes to the captain before it goes off to the prosecutors or public for requests or anything.
Thank you. Other questions for the chief? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Jeff Michie votes yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll write you first. Okay, Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanton Gregor,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Newman.
With that, that passes 7-0 on the action agreement for public safety equipment. Second item on the agenda is a request for direction on wireless communication facility regulation. Director Cabrera requests direction from the Assembly on how it wishes to proceed with potential regulation of wireless communication facilities. Staff is seeking guidance on the preferred path forward before additional research or development of potential ordinance language. And there's a memo in the package from Director Cabrera related to this item. Do I have a motion for direction on wireless communication facilities from that memo?
May I ask a question of the mayor?
Yes, you may.
Would you like that in the form of an affirmative motion, like one of the options on there presented? Or how would you like to get that on the table?
That's what I was thinking. One of the options to go with, and then we can discuss it and either
And go
shoot
from
it
there.
down and then move it down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In that case, I would move, we approve option 3.
Would you like to talk a little bit about option 3, or what it is and why you're, if you
I'll
would.
second that
I need a-
motion.
I need a motion. I need a second on that.
Second.
Okay. If you would like to talk a little bit
Sure.
about in detail about it.
You bet. I'll assume all of us are fairly up to speed on the 3 options presented.
I'm not, Jay. I was busy coiling Tanner crab gear, so if you could fill me in on option 3, that'd be great.
Actually, I would love if Director Cabrera could be, if that would be preferable to the assembly, because I believe, to put it simply, Liz has put in, and the manager put lots of work into getting this before us, so I would have it come from the experts, please.
Yes. Liz, you're unmuted. Do you want to back up a little bit and talk about the overview of how we got to this point too, if you would, and then walk into option 3, please?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you come through loud and clear.
Okay, great. I think you've all been aware of public concern surrounding development of wireless communication facilities in Service Area 1 and outside of Service Area 1. So the Planning Commission initiated an amendment to Title 19. Title 19 is the zoning code for Service Area 1. To amend that title to update how we regulate wireless communication facilities, i.e. towers. So in their recommendation, as they contemplated a new ordinance, they extended, their recommendation is to extend this ordinance borough-wide. And the problem with that, there are several, and those are the ones that are outlined in that memo. But basically, the main things being that Title 19, per the charter, only applies to Service Area 1 because it was never moved over to the borough code. So you can't just say, oh, now Title 19 applies throughout the borough because, you know, it's not extended that way. So we can't use the powers of Title 19 zoning where there is actually no zoning and there's no conditional use permits and there's no enforcement of zoning. So this memo basically asks you on how you would like to proceed. Now, you know, the option 3 that Member Stanton Gregor proposed, that would basically take Title 19 and expand it on a non-area wide basis. And non-area wide means all of the borough except for the city of Kupreanof. City of Kupreanof has its own authority under the charter to do planning, zoning, and platting. So we would move Title 19 into the borough code. It would become applicable and enforceable throughout the borough. except for City of Kupreanof. Usually the way you extend zoning that way is you don't immediately just apply zoning. We wouldn't be using the same zoning districts we have in Service Area 1. Generally, what you do is you put everything new that was previously unzoned into kind of a holding district that allows most uses. But there might be some uses that are high impact that you would do differently. And then you gradually go through and apply appropriate zoning for these new areas. I think that's it in a nutshell for you.
Questions for Liz?
No, thanks, Liz. It's all coming back to me. Been a couple weeks since I read it, but thank you.
Is there other comments and questions from Assembly? Member Stan Gregor?
Yeah, just for those listening at home, let's say for the sake of argument, we go that direction. The time frame involved is I'll read it from the memo, is 9 to 12 months for the initial effort, and thereafter it'll take several years to complete any specific zoning for all the areas, meaning it's a long-term process. It'll be pretty exhaustive for staff, I'm sure, if we go this direction. I personally think it's the most comprehensive of our options, but I just want to have that part said out loud, that the time frame is not an overnight thing.
Member Newman?
I got a lot to say on this subject. I feel like we need to pump the brakes here because there are significant ramifications or consequences to this option. How this came about was because of the issue of the wireless communication facilities, the cell towers that we've all been talking about for a long time now, and there's been a lot of public comment. And due to the fact that outside Service Area 1, where they already have, where Tidal Network is about property on Rory's Road, they're outside Service Area 1. And so as the process kind of rolled along and we realized that we're pretty constrained by the provisions of the Federal Communications Act, which basically says that we cannot prohibit or even effectively prohibit telecommunication companies from constructing cell towers. So the only option we really have as an assembly is to create an ordinance. So we can kind of channel them in a direction for the least detrimental or least obtrusive location, hopefully. But we're kind of, that ship has kind of already sailed. And so what we're trying to do is draft an ordinance that will give us, some level of control moving forward. These companies, if they have already started their permitting process, any way, shape, or form, they would be exempt from any ordinance that we can create. So through the process of the borough drafting an ordinance, it has to go through the planning commission. And during the planning commission process, one of the members said, maybe we should make it, borough-wide or area-wide. And so that's why we are being presented with this question now. So I feel like we're getting a little bit off track because I think that the consequences of this option 3 is basically, we would essentially be having to address all the issues outside Service Area 1, and those are comprehensive. The downside is we would have to hire an additional staff person, and honestly, in my perspective, with declining revenues, increasing cost, and I've been hearing from local or borough employees that, they're considering other options, leaving the community because we can't pay them enough. And here we're talking about hiring another full-time staff person because that's what would be necessary, because this is This is a major, major thing. So I would encourage everybody to fully consider all the things that come into play by approving this option 3.
Member Valentine?
Thank you. Okay. Just correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just making sure I understand this correctly. We have an ordinance that's being written, right? And this part that we're seeing here is to try to be done first before the ordinance is being written, right? So that the ordinance can affect more than just the current borough service area 1. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. Liz, do you want to address that?
Sure. Could you restate that one more time?
Yeah, so basically, we have an ordinance being written up and might be on pause, waiting for this kind of Title 19. So Title 19 kind of came first now, and then the ordinance will come after? Is that where is that why we're looking at these options here? Does that make sense? Like the ordinance is the ordinance going to go regardless of whether or not we choose to do any of these options?
Not necessarily. One of the options is no action, and so then it wouldn't go. Another option is to just limit the ordinance to service area 1, and then we would just draft an ordinance and it would only impact service area 1. So under those 2 options, it would move forward. Under option 3, that's a good question, whether we adopt something for Title 19 as we're working towards expanding Title 19 non-area wide. I suppose that would be possible.
So yeah, I was kind of more getting at that. I'd rather see the ordinance come up within what we already have. And then if we were to eventually go on option 3, which I feel like shouldn't be decided right this moment. Like Member Newman was saying, there's going to be so much more to it than just trying to tackle this tower that's already on private land, right? So, but within our own, like, I would hate to see that the ordinance doesn't go up just because we didn't choose one of these options. Does that make sense? Am I kind of in that right direction there?
Yep.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the manager has a question.
If I could. So we formed a borough many years ago, and included in the charter is the borough has authority to do zoning throughout the borough, so outside service area 1. Liz and her group and others made a tremendous effort to bring this in front of the assembly once before, and it was voted down. And so we've done nothing for all these years. So Title 19, our zoning ordinance, sits out there, only applicable to service area 1. So in other words, we've never really covertly moved this out like the charter actually intended. As Liz put in this memo, you put everything in a holding district, and then you basically go through the process of moving this ordinance into operation, so to speak, throughout the borough. The assembly can vote it down, and we'll again not convert everything to where it applies to all throughout the borough. And we can do it in a way that, only the ordinance that P&Z put so much work into only applies to service area 1. But again, I heard from many of you, assembly members, about when the folks started talking about why can't we stop these towers? And we explained, well, because this is one of the real reasons. Title 19 is not applicable outside of service area 1. We can keep doing that, but I can tell you, one of the things that probably should have been done is when these folks came in and said, we want you to do something, we should say, no, we can't. Instead of having 5 months worth of conversations about cell towers and the borough doing something about it. I'm just suggesting that, starting this process, while it's a big deal, there's no question. But as Liz said, we can put everything in a holding district and it can stay there for quite a while we try to figure out how we want to do this. Or we can basically, again, punt and say, we're not going to go through the process. I think it's important for the assembly to finally say one way or the other. Because we shouldn't have to we don't want to have to keep bugging you with this issue, but it comes up occasionally because people outside Service Area 1 are saying they want the borough to do something. Well, this is a way for the borough to do something going forward. If it doesn't pass, so be it. But again, understand, that means we cannot enforce this ordinance outside Service Area 1. And, you know, we need to just move on from that probably that whole conversation.
Member Valentine for.
Sorry, can you describe to me what a holding district is?
Liz, correct me because I'm going to say this wrong. It's basically putting in a district that allows any other majority of other uses. In other words, you could build a single family, you could build a warehouse, you could do all the things you can currently do. There might be some restrictions we could put in, like we're not going to allow anything that creates toxic waste without further. So it's basically a district you put in place to say you can do almost everything that you're already doing until we get around to someday saying this area is going to be single family and this area is going to be something else. Am I correct, Liz, saying you could leave it in a holding district for quite a while?
Yeah, that's basically it. It's a pretty broad district. You can basically use it throughout the entire area that's not currently zoned. It allows most uses. There might be things that we would say, well, it needs a conditional use permit, like, for instance, a wireless communication facility, or other high impact uses. But most everyday uses would be allowed by right, meaning you don't need any special permission from the borough.
Okay, and then I'll end on this. Thank you for that. So I understood that better. I personally don't know the extent of how this is going to affect the people that are living at Papke's, which is basically what we're talking about. But this then will extend, didn't we borough just get property over on Thomas Bay too? And like, this extends so much further. And then I know we're trying to tackle wireless communication towers, which I think we should moving into the future because the future is really fast and we should definitely keep up with it. But I think that I'd rather hear more people from in the Papke's community understanding that there's going to be some really, really big changes if this is where to happen. And do you really want this? I'd rather hear a lot more from them than this today just giving to me. So as this is right now, and I had to choose right now, I will not be choosing option 3. Thanks.
Member Stanton Gregor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, Steve, from my own process, without giving me the 15-minute monologue on it, what would be the bones of the if option 3 passed, like what's the step-by-step after that? And again, I know it could be a big monologue, but if you can give me the cliff note would be great.
We'd have to put in place the means, meaning, you know, what are we going to call this catch-all district? We'd have to identify, you know, go into the maps themselves and make sure that we have good records on whatever thing is. And if there's any immediate conflicts, we'd have to identify those and hopefully work them out so that it doesn't impact somebody that's already living there. And we'd have to figure out, you know, what does this all mean? Does this include, you know, do we want to have separate zones out there for commercial or industrial or single family or not? I mean, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made up front by staff to implement this. And it would take a while. I mean, it's, you know, and you have issues with the ordinances too. Are there ordinances like the tower issue that need to be considered so we can implement that in a way that, you know, GCI is out here wanting to put towers up? Do we, you know, get something in a hurry about the cell towers particularly to slow that process down?
The clarifier I should have done, and I apologize, Mr. Manager, is what level of involvement would the assembly have if this was going forward? What would be our level of involvement in the process? Because to me, it seems like we'd be pretty extensive, but I could be totally off base because I don't know, obviously.
Yeah. Liz, when we go to put zones in place, that's an assembly level decision to approve it, correct?
Right. I think we would have to first just internally staff take Title 19 and go through it and try to make it consistent with borough code. So, change City of Petersburg to Petersburg Borough. There's a few things in there that I call they're quite egregious and have been vexing problems for many years now, and it'd be nice to address those as well as part of this. So moving Title 19 into Borough Code is one part of it. The other part of it is crafting this holding district, and then what's going to be the by right uses. I think residential uses, that's a pretty easy one to say yes to. And then we could do something, like I said, include wireless communication facilities as a conditional use inside of that holding district. And then moving forward, I would think that you would want significant public input to craft specific land use for those areas, but that would be a little bit further along. So when I give you that initial time period, that's really just to get the bare bones in place, honestly.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Member Schwartz.
Well, to James' concern too, it's going back a little bit, but it sounded like, Steve, you were in favor of 3 over 1 and 2, and that the way that I remember reading it, there would be input from the folks at Papke's, there'd be time for input from those people before any of this would take place. Is that correct?
Through the mayor. Actually, it's how to describe it. So the public input comes when you start to have to make decisions, but not to start the process. So the assembly can start the process with a vote here today or not. And the process is it takes a while. I think I said originally when this came up, it might take us a couple of years. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. That's why this is a tough thing, because we don't want to do it now, but then understand, if you want to do it in the future, there's a long lead time for all the reasons that Liz laid out. And then you've got to go through and identify uses. And that's stuff that has to be publicly vetted and vetted by the assembly. So it's a very, very long process. And the public gets a say in it, in the sense of, okay, what about, and fill in their question. Will this stop cell towers? You have to do a lot of public hearings on stuff like this, but you got to start somewhere to get to that point.
Thank you for that.
Newman.
Yeah, that's my perception, is this is a huge issue. And I feel like this issue of Title 19 and extending Service Area 1 or creating another Service Area 2, whatever it is kind of detracting from our short-term goal of trying to get an ordinance pertaining to wireless communication facilities passed. I mean, that's really what this is. This is a tangent that came up and is creating a whole nother separate issue. And I think our goal should be, let's get the ordinance passed pertaining to wireless communication facilities. And then I feel like this is like a whole nother entire process that we take into consideration. I mean, and because it is, we have ordinances, and we need to pass the ordinance that we have kind of coming up the pike. And then if this becomes, a viable option or solution, we all decide it's going to take a year or two to decide. Lots of meetings, lots of process. Then I feel like then that ordinance pertaining to cell towers will come into play. But this issue of Title 19 in outside Service Area 1 shouldn't derail the ordinance that is coming up the pike.
Through the mayor, actually, it does. That's kind of the challenge. The ordinance written by P&Z cannot be implemented the way it is. It can only be put in place in Service Area 1. So.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I understand that.
As long as the assembly knows that.
Right.
We can go down the route of having an ordinance that does something with cell towers, but it's only going to be good and enforceable in Service Area 1. So all these people that have been in here talking to you, most of them are out from Papke's area, we can't help them unless.
Exactly. And
Okay.
I completely understand that. We're trying to pass an ordinance within service area 1. And this is going to complicate it to where we have GCI out here who's looking to put up 4 more cell towers somewhere. And we need to be able to control what's inside service area 1. If we wait another 2 years to pass this, to deliberate and go through the process of how this would manifest itself and decide on it, then we're past it. Once they start their permitting process, they're exempt from anything that we can do inside of an ordinance.
Member Schwartz?
What? I don't understand why it can't be a both and. I mean, we could work on option 3 of 19 and pass an ordinance within service area 1. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I mean,
We just have to know going in, what's the, like I said, I'm sorry. I heard from several of you that now, now's the time. People are asking that live out at Papke's, they want the borough's support to help solve these problems. So Liz and P&Z in this case have come up with some solutions. And what we're saying is, it's all, this stuff is tied together. If you want ordinances that stop cell towers or stop pig farms, then we have to start somewhere. We have to start with getting our ordinances up to speed, and in this case, Title 19, the zoning ordinance, and catering it to what the folks, expect or need out there. And if the answer is we're going to eventually write an ordinance for cell towers, we should write it right the first time. Anyway, this is an assembly decision, and I get it. That's why I sent out the email to all of you to please read this carefully, because it's a big deal.
The ordinance that we're drafting now, and nothing we do, even if we approve this option 3, it's not going to deny or prohibit Title Network from building a cell tower on the property that they own right now on
You're
Roy
correct.
Road. There's nothing. So we're past that. That ship has sailed. We're moving forward, looking forward. The other company that we haven't dealt with yet is GCI. And the sooner that we get an ordinance passed, the more we can effectively deal with them.
Member Mucci? Think you're muted, Jeff.
There, all kinds of buttons to push. You got me now, Bob?
Yes, we go loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for your patience. Yeah, I've been involved in the assembly for many years, and we kicked this can down the road for many years because certain individuals on the assembly didn't want to deal with it. And I think the time has come. We've got a good alternative here. I think it's a great recommendation from staff, but we got Steve thinks it's a good idea. I'm all for this idea of moving forward. I think we can do, I think the ordinance can go forward, but I think we need to get started here. The longer we wait, the more issues we're going to have to deal with, whether it's cell towers or data centers. But yeah, I'm all for this, and I'm in favor of option 3. Thank you.
Member Valentine?
Okay, thanks. As we keep going in circles here. Okay. When I started this, because to me, it felt, as I was reading it, it was each one of these options were tied to that ordinance, right? So if I would have read option 2, which says limit the scope, nothing changes to keep it in service area 1, that is option that I was going to choose. Or option 3, which is we have to do this whole thing, and then the ordinance comes too. If they are separated and this ordinance is going to come no matter what, then I'm also in agreement with what Member Newman's saying, is that we can still work on the expanding the zoning area so long as this ordinance goes through. And if after hearing everybody talk, it sounds like that ordinance will come through. Now, we're just deciding on what to do after, right? No, wait.
Bigger picture.
Right, because but basically, I'm not opposed to helping zoning out there. But again, it takes forever, but I'd like to see in 3 months, option 2, that this ordinance comes through. Right? That's the way I see it. So if this ordinance is tied so hard to option 3, which means it would never go out for 2 more years, then no, I'm not going to do it. But if we get the ordinance out, we can make an amends to the ordinance later when we do all this other stuff. Yes. So anyways, I want to just make sure that I clarify that I'm ordinance for sure. If we do this, yes, but I don't want them to be so tied that 2 years later, this ordinance then comes up. Thank you.
I'll just read for Liz's benefit. She wrote this, option 2, limit scope of zoning amendment to service area 1. Okay. And she's got the pros and cons here. And the cons, it leaves a regulatory void. A telecommunications company could theoretically build a tower just outside the service area boundary with no oversight from the borough. That's what I was hearing from the people that testified and many of the assembly, what you were opposed to. You wanted the borough to be able to deal with this stuff. So while option 2 will get us an ordinance, it's only applying in service area 1. I just want to be clear. It does not stop somebody for building a tower outside of service area 1. And, we can't do anything about that. So I just want to make sure that's understood.
I'll direct it to you then. So then would going on option 3 slow down any new towers coming in tomorrow? Or let's say X amount of time?
New towers where?
Outside this, Apapki.
So Liz mentioned doing a holding district where we could put in, you can't put a communication tower in this district without a conditional use permit.
That holding district could come on almost
immediately. We're literally saying everything outside of service area 1 is in a holding district, correct?
And that's the one thing we threw in there. Hey, no more tower. Boom.
We would say you have to get a conditional use permit to put a tower there, meaning they have to come and go in front of P&Z and say, here's what we're going to put, and there's
our ordinance.
And that's enforceable. We can say, you cannot build that unless you go through and talk to P&Z and tell them where you're going to put it, and P&Z has a right to say that, say yes or no. That's the advantage of putting zoning outside service area 1, because you can then put those conditional uses on property. But guys, I mean, I don't want, my job is not to argue with you. I mean, so I apologize. I mean, this is a tough issue. It was a tough issue before, and we've gone how many years now where we still haven't got this done. So I get it.
Can I weigh in for just a minute on this? I'm in probably a little bit different place than everybody sitting here. First of all, Liz, I appreciate you putting this on the agenda because we gotta go forward in some fashion. So I'm not saying anything against any of your options here, but I'm going to change a little bit and we've discussed this. When we were doing borough formation, the issue that stopped the borough was planning and zoning outside of town. I mean, bar none, that was the strongest issue. And other than this, I'm not hearing a lot of people saying they want more zoning, more rules, more regulations outside of town. Okay, number one. Number two is plating. As I said earlier, I believe this borough needs to take plating right now. And yes, we're going to have to add help to Liz's staff. But plating does a number of things. It doesn't put the planning and zoning, but it certainly gives us more control over where the roads go, how big subdivisions, and a whole bunch of other things. And I think we, as an assembly right now, we can take that option. We can ask the state to give us plating authority. And yes, I do agree with Liz. She needs more help to do that. And then I will move on, is that I think we're also to the point in this coming budget that frankly, we are not charging administrative costs outside of service area 1. And I think that needs to be put in this coming budget. And it's going to be, we're talking 2 mills plus. I think that needs to be in the budget. And as part of that, I think we need to add staff to help Liz do this because this job's becoming much bigger than smaller in my mind. And I guess the other thing I would propose is that I agree with the comments going around here, but I think that we need to back off a little bit. If you want to put into effect in Service Area 1, yeah, I could go for that. But what Liz wants to propose is I would like to see us come back with a proposal. How do we involve those people we're affecting out there? You know, whether it be Papke's over on Cooper Knoll or what have you. How do we involve those people as we go forward? Because I'm not willing to sit here and make some decisions for them. You know, I'd like to see it more of a community. Or if we're just talking about, say, for instance, you know, the rest of Mitkoff Island, what do these folks really want? I would like to hear that part of it. And so I'd like to see a proposal that lays out how we would go about, if we were going to go with 3, how we would, you know, the details of how we would go there, I guess, before I'm willing to go with that type of a thing. And I think Member Newman, you had another comment?
Yeah, I really like what you have to say. I appreciate that very much. I think everybody has a lot of really good comments, and I've been out of town. So I'm trying to formulate this. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk to a lot of people. But from what I'm hearing, I'm just kind of speaking hypothetically here, and I'm doing a little brainstorming. So what we could do is create this, if we did go with option 3, create this holding area that would, and then get the ordinance passed. That would give us control over companies that want to put wireless communication facilities outside Service Area 1. Get the ordinance passed, that gives us more control inside Service Area 1. And then we have time to, what you're just speaking to, Mayor, about including people in the conversation about what this actually means and how we're going to move forward with it, because it is a pretty big issue. Does that seem like a good idea?
Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, that's why it's done that way, through the mayor. I mean, that's why you have a holding district that allows, for the most part, everything that's already being done. You know, as P&Z or Liz's and her staff go through that process, you know, they may come up with something besides communication towers that you want to have a conditional use permit. Maybe a rock quarry. You might want to say, you don't want a rock quarry developed next to your house without having some say. So I don't want to just commit to say it would only be communications towers. That's one of those conversation pieces that could take a while. You're talking, what would people at Papke's or, you know, end of Mitkoff Island, what would you want to be able to have a say in? I remember dealing with our current mayor's wife one time in a positive, when, you know, she talked about what would you want a lodge next door to your home, and you know, she was like, no. I mean, clearly so maybe that's another issue that you'd say you want a conditional use permit to say, if you're going to build a lodge, you got to come in from P&Z and the Petersburg public and let them know what you're going to do and have people have a say in it. The holding district is exactly what it sounds like. You put it there, you allow almost all uses that's currently done until you can figure out what you want it to say in the future.
A question on that. I thought there was a time frame on that holding district.
That was the question I asked. Liz, am I correct? Like you said, there's no time frame on that.
There isn't a time frame on that. One of the issues that we'll probably be faced with is deciding whether to grandfather in uses in that holding district. So let's say we allowed someone to put in, I don't know, an asphalt plant or something, and that was an okay use. And then later on, we went back and the folks in that area wanted more specific zoning, and that wasn't going to be an allowed use. Do you allow the grandfather right in for some of those high intensity uses? So that's the only thing, is that making that decision. So if you were going to allow grandfather rights, then yeah, you probably wouldn't have to revisit that holding district for quite a while until there was maybe enough development or pressure or demand for something. If you didn't have grandfather rights, that might, I would think, maybe give some hesitation to people to do some development where they're not really sure what the future holds. So I think it's really some consideration and of how to move that forward and what we want to include and what we don't want to include and what you want to see, 10 years down the road and 20 years down the road.
Liz,
Also,
that
just
question.
and I just wanted to add too, I know you're just all speaking casually about this, but even the Title 19, that's not BAM tomorrow, it's going to be in place. So it's going to take a little bit of time, no matter which path you choose. If you want the Title 19 Service Area 1 ordinance, we would do that one first. It would take a little bit of time to get that through, and then we could start looking at the other thing, but it's, I might not be able to do everything simultaneously. So just so you know.
So as part of that process, and I'm still having problems with process. Part of that process, let's say that you create that holding district. Now, somebody on Mitkoff Island out the road comes forward and says, well, we don't want any more than 5 trees per acre. I'll use that. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I want to use it as an example. So, all right, so all of a sudden now that goes forward, goes through P&Z. And so if we don't have service areas or so forth, then that could be applied over the whole borough rather than just one area. The point I'm trying to get to is, what constitutes a service? What would you put in a service area? How would you go about that? And what would you do borough-wide under this holding concept?
So I think when you're thinking about zoning and land use, you kind of have to set service areas aside because zoning is non-area wide. And so the way you distinguish is not by service area, it's by zoning district. So, if just because you had some part of the borough, the holding district or something, that would still be temporary, but let's say you had that would apply anywhere where the holding district was applied. And then you could create a new district which had different rules and apply that, Papke's or Thomas Bay or wherever it would be appropriate. So it's not tied to service area. And I tried that with the attorney, and really it's 2 separate issues, and I don't think there's a clean way to make it work that way. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but.
No, you did. You showed how complicated it is. That's what I was asking for.
There's no service area. Generally, often we talk about service areas in the vein of there being a tax ramification. Zoning has nothing to do with property taxes.
Yeah. Member Martin?
That's probably for Steve and Liz, but what's your sense for the difference in timing between option 2 and option 3? Because I know I'm pretty sure I have a read that people in service area 1 want an update and want it quickly enough to maybe make a difference. I don't have a very good read on outside service area 1. So in order to risk slowing down what I know people want, I'd kind of need a little more input.
Yeah, Liz, can you answer that maybe?
Yeah, it just ranges. You probably all realize by now that telecommunications law is complicated. You probably have figured that out by now. Our best guess is 3 months, right? You need 3 readings at the assembly to adopt the ordinance. And I, hopefully get it to you in a month or so. And go from there. So. And the other one is that's just a lot more extensive. Yeah. The option 3.
Is it possible to draft the ordinance so it would work later with this option 3, or does it require option 3 to be already fleshed out more? Like can you just add wording that will work?
Do you mean add more wording that would work to the ordinance that we're going to propose? So it,
Yeah, can you make it area or option 3 ready, holding district ready without actually taking that issue on?
what do you mean by that issue?
Let's see. So the ordinance that's in the works that won't work outside of Service Area 1, is there a way to make it so it could work outside of Service Area 1? And we still
No.
haven't decided. Okay, so that has to exist.
Not the way not the way it's proposed. I think option 4, we had like, maybe there's something out there that we could research, but that would, it's almost like you have to research, find something, and then try to like write it all out, like you're writing a real ordinance and probably get almost all the way there before you know whether it's going to work or not, because I'm not sure how to mesh rules for outside of Service Area 1 that will then apply inside of Service Area 1. So the way, really the true way that communities do this, the appropriate way to do this is through land use, and that's Title 19. That's the authority you have to manage land use in Service Area 1 and everywhere but City of Kupreanof, and that's the appropriate way to do it. If you want to stagger it and say, hey, we want to do Title 19 amendment first and get something in place in Service Area 1, and then we'll look at everywhere else, that's not an unreasonable approach, given
That's
the
just what I was about to
timelines.
ask. That one. I vote that one.
Member Newman.
I'm just trying to formulate in my mind. Is there any way, any reason why we can't, if we did go with option 3 to create this holding district in like perpetuity, and then what's forcing us to continue on with creating all the zoning districts?
Through the mayor, if I may. So Liz kind of hinted at it, well, which would be the people themselves say something's changed. So, for example, somebody comes forward and says, I've got 40 acres out here outside Service Area 1, and I want to build a lodge. And let's say when we set the holding district up, we said, can't do lodges without a conditional use permit. That could potentially change how that property is zoned. So, or some new technology comes by. We're dealing with cell towers. Maybe the next thing is, Starlink towers. I don't know. What drives the change? You're right. In perpetuity, we could leave it alone and do nothing. But people could drive changes. They could come in and say, yeah, I don't want to change this, but on my property, I want to do this. Can you make that change? And then there's a process for that. So,
you're saying that if we create the holding district, we couldn't just restrict it to conditional use permits for wireless communication facilities? And everybody else is.
And leave it alone and do
Yeah.
nothing else. Or, what you generally do is you want to say, we're going to be subject to people coming forward and saying, that I get it. My house is in the holding district, but I want to do something different. Can I do that? We want to make sure we always build a process in so that can happen. So we don't say, yeah, we didn't think of that, but because we didn't lay it out, there's no way for you to move forward with what your idea is. Somebody wants to build a lumber mill or, holding district is exactly what it sounds like. It's just there until it's not. And there's no reason for the borough to go change it unless we're getting input from somebody that says, hey, change this. Because I want to put a lumber mill there.
So are you saying that we cannot restrict it to just wireless communication facilities? It would apply to everybody that wants to build something.
Say that again?
I'm just trying to simplify this to the extent that it serves the purpose of what we're trying to do without creating, unforeseen consequences.
Well, setting it up as a holding district, Liz and I and staff or whatever and then assembly have to decide, are there going to be any items that you want to arbitrarily say no unless they go through. So we're using the communication towers as the example. Clearly, we'd want to put in there, holding districts is good for everything except for communication towers. Those you have to come forward and ask for special permission. Are there anything else like communication towers that we want to put in there? Probably are. If you give us some time, we'll come up with a list for you. I mean, or the people themselves will come up with a list. Say, look, I don't really want a lodge next door to me, or I don't want. So those can be thrown in on the holding district as things you need you need to go to P&Z and ask for permission. You need a conditional use permit for these 5 things or these 6 things or whatever they are. I would highly suggest if the assembly goes option 3, that we keep that list pretty narrow, meaning we don't want to go in and list 30 things that you can't do on your lot. That defeats the purpose of the holding district. I mean, we don't want to get in people's business is what it amounts to, but we want to have a means to stop things that people clearly want to have a say in.
I guess I'm just trying to tailor this to the intended point of this, which is wildlife.
And you're doing great. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want to answer and say, no, it can't be changed because that's.
But in the future, it could be changed by a future assembly or public input or process or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
To me, we've put a big project or a big subject on the table. And I think we have to give it, from my perspective, we have to give our public's time. This is going to affect, outside Service Area 1 to understand what we're talking about before I'm willing to, say, yeah, let's go forward with, with option 3. From my perspective, the other one, if somebody wants to go forward with, putting in effect in Service Area 1, I'm okay with that for right now. But I'm not willing even to go to the point from my own personal till we lay that out in some way so the public has a chance to weigh in, the folks outside of Service Area 1 here on this issue. Good. Member Valentine.
Okay, so to try to move this forward, Liz, are you there? Can I ask you a quick question?
Through the mayor, yes.
Okay. To adopt Title 19 to the borough code, that what you said earlier, I do like that option, right? To adopt it within all the borough, that gives us plating right? No, zoning right. Zoning right. And also move the ordinance through, I feel, and then take our time with the thing we've been talking about for an hour. I like that. How do I make a motion to put that into option 2?
Why don't we just vote on this, and then if it fails, make a motion to do option 2? Would be the cleanest way.
Does option 2 include adopting Title 19 into borough code? No, it does not. Is that suggested, Liz? Would that be suggestible?
Oh, at some point in time, I think you need to start that process and.
Okay. Cool. Sounds like today.
Well, it could be. It could be today. But I do hear what you're all saying about the fact that, so far the calls for land use out there have been very narrow. It's very much focused on these communications towers. Perhaps there's not a broader demand at this time for that. And that, if you want to hear from people, you could just say, let's do Title 19 right now, and let's develop a process for how we're going to move forward from there. And, and that's usually begins with some kind of public engagement and community engagement. And, we can start the process of moving 19 to borough code. And you could even have a holding district that allows everything, right? And that basically is the same as it is now. It would not prohibit anything. And so you basically have status quo, but then you are ready to put districts in place if and when that time comes. So Hopefully, I didn't just confuse things further. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Let me come back. Member Newman.
I guess I'm in favor of all that if we can restrict the holding district, open to everything but wireless communication facilities.
Do that.
Because that serves our short-term goal here. And then gives time for the public to weigh in on it. And because that I think we would be.
Liz, am I correct in saying that what Scott said is very doable and that all the other things that are not listed would be subject to a request to the public? They'd have to do a conditional use permit application.
I guess I would think about it the opposite way, which is we would allow all uses. That's
Okay.
what it is right now. And
Gotcha.
then just put wireless communication facilities as a conditional use. So that would be the only thing that you would need to come and get.
Is that voting option 3 then?
That could be a consequence of option 3.
It could be how.
But what am I voting, right? Is it option 3 that's like, yes, exactly what you just said? Or,
I would suggest that we would vote on this and then we propose
But-
another, we propose another amendment to that.
Yeah, we would have to make an amendment to
Yeah.
option
Right.
3.
okay,
We'd have
that,
to,
that's okay.
we'd have to vote this one down and then make an amendment
If you
to
wanted to.
option
up to
3. Is
you.
that correct? Or
Each
can we
member
make
their
an
own.
amendment now?
If it applies to option 3, meaning if you prefer, Becky cut me off, I'm out of line as parliamentarian. If you wanted option 2, we'd vote no, then we could put option 2 on the table. If you wanted to amend part of what option 3 says, now would be the time to do it.
Option 3 is on the table right now.
Correct, but if you had an amendment to
If you
option
have an
3,
amendment to option 3 right now.
shoot it, man.
Okay.
Make an amendment to option 3 to create a holding district that allows all uses with the exception of wireless communication facilities requiring a conditional use permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Amendment made by member Newman, second by member Valentine, and then we'll have a discussion on that.
The amendment.
Yes.
Question for the manager, if I might. Let's say this amendment passed for the sake of it, and let's say option 3 passed. Let's carry it through. It's more or less giving you direction how to set that up at that point, right?
I don't need, we wouldn't need direction from the assembly at that point. We know what.
But that's my point. You can
Yeah.
go and do it. Where I'm going with this though is if at some point down the line, we wanted to revisit that from either getting lots of public feedback, we just need to have some agenda item to revisit that topic if we, on the off chance we wanted to do something different. But that would just,
Yeah, I mean,
anything can be changed.
anything can be changed. I mean, that's the, the one thing we don't want to do is to put a lot of rules in place that
Correct.
we have to backtrack on because that hurts people's ability to work on their property. So you
That's
don't
where I'm
want to
going
say
with
this is all legal today and then tomorrow it's suddenly not.
That's where I'm going with
Yeah.
that. I just want to make sure it's minimalistic. That's great. I'll be voting for the amendment.
Mayor Martin?
One elephant in the room here is the extra staff person, or would we be triggering a whole another hire just by this decision today?
Can I speak?
Yes, you may.
Sorry. So through the mayor, we've been talking about this for a while. Not even, I mean, we've talked about, the mayor brought up plating authority. Liz needs help. I mean, we're so much of our property with the add-on of the property coming in from the state requires management to, I mean, for example, we would love to set up a service area in Thomas Bay before anybody ever moves or buys property from us, so that people move in knowing what the rules are day one. That's a ton of work. We've been talking about this for a while. We've held off as long as we could. Even if none of this happens, we're probably looking at an extra staff person because it's necessary. I mean, this is, as you can see just from the conversations at the assembly level, this is complex and it's hard, and you need somebody that can help the public through the process. We have a tough time providing that now when people have questions. I need to get Liz some help.
I'd add to that also, is that, we have the property in Thomas Bay, for example, and it wouldn't take it, we could actually begin to put lots up. It's mostly surveyed and so forth, but to me, I'd be the same place the manager is, that I wouldn't want to sell anything until we get the rules in place and what we're going to do, what we're going to charge. I
What
mean,
somebody's gonna allow. I mean,
Yeah.
you want it, single family, or do you want whatever? I mean, we would like to solve that before people move in, and then, because then you have arguments. Anyway, take staff to do that.
And in addition to that, there are some of those lands, I think, that need to be preserved for public access, for our future facilities, for emergencies, for that type of thing, and for marine access and so forth. That's has to be part of the process. And and as you say, it's complicated. Go ahead.
I need to, at 2, have to go to
Yes.
catch the call
Yep.
for Ray. So,
Okay.
just gotta go.
Okay, now I'm going to come back. Is there any,
The amendment we're still on.
we're still on the amendment. Is there any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Would the clerk please call the roll on the amendment?
Member Newman,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin, Vice Mayor Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Okay. The amendment passes 7-0. Now we're back to the main motion, the amended motion, I should say. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Member Martin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Newman,
Yes.
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
And that also passes 7-0. And with that, I'll move on the agenda. And we have under there, the communications are in the packet for this time, but I believe that Member Martin has a presentation or subject he wants to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't prepare much. I got distracted with the snow here, but, so there's a Board of Fish proposal. They've been coming up every board cycle to limit, hatchery production. And this one is a statewide proposal. And it looks like it might actually get some traction. The Board of Fish has become more and more friendly to these kind of anti-hatchery, anti-commercial fishing proposals. So what I'd like to do is maybe come up with a resolution or letter we could vote on next meeting. Now, the public comment is due at midnight tonight, the on-time public comment, so we're too late for that. But I would encourage anyone who's interested to look it up or get a hold of me and find out how to register your comments. And, but we can put in what's called an RC. It's like it's a comment that goes in after the deadline. And being a borough, it would probably get plenty of attention. So I'll hopefully have something next meeting and we can vote it up or down. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Any other assembly members have comments or questions? Okay. I'll move on. Is there any recognitions? Again, hearing none. One last thing is back to the item on the regulations. Would it be possible to have on the next agenda just a summary of what we've agreed to and the approach? Something in less than a page. I'd ask the manager so that make sure we're all on the same page on this.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm sorry. Talk to me after the meeting. And
Okay, I'll do that.
We're happy to give it for it. I need to know more clear what you need.
I just want to make sure that the 7 of us sitting here are all heard the same thing and are on the same page. That's what I'm asking for. Okay, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Okay, we're adjourned.